marks the first video of the channel that I have just started. I just wanted to create this video to help you all who are maybe struggling with starting anything or just getting the confidence to just take the leap of faith and stepping out there to create or do something that you feel called to doing. And for the longest time, creating a platform to help empower people has always been on my heart, and decided, you know, today marks the day that I begin that journey and just overcoming my fears, overcoming the doubts, the the worries, and all the other things that come along with creating anything worthwhile, and more specifically, creating a channel where you're putting your voice out there, putting yourself out there in general, um, to help others, and etc. And just in essence, building a community. Today, I would just like to go through, just even with my life story. A lot of times, I had the of just doubts and fear of just going after my dreams. I thought going to the NFL and living out my dreams that way was going to be my ticket. God had other plans, which led me down this path of just figuring out who I was underneath just my aspirations at the time. And it really has been a challenging but insightful experience, just being able to focus on and see like who really is Gabe, and what is it that I want out of life, and how do I really want to impact others. And that has really been a process, as you guys could imagine, because we're all can attest to just the the everyday ins and outs of having to either go to school, make a living, pay bills, navigate health and family and other relationships, all while just trying to, just be sane and have peace of mind and continue to have a positive outlook. So for the longest time, I've been one who just wanted to have all the right things in order to proceed with anything, which initially, it doesn't sound bad, but it can be it can be kind of a kryptonite to any forward progress or success you truly want, because you want to make sure everything falls in line. And just learning in life, and even being newly married, has really showed me a lot about the perfect imperfection, in the sense of, yeah, things are not going to always go as planned, but how do you navigate that? How do you continue to either strategize or become flexible in the midst of that, and become a better person because of the all of the adjustments that are involved. So if you guys are just thinking or wondering about like having all your ducks in a row, or looking a certain way, all these different things that can be just roadblocks. So just putting those things to the side and deciding, no matter what, I'm going to start today, whether it's working out, whether it's approaching that girl or guy, or having the conversation, or asking for the raise, or creating something, creating a project, traveling, reading, any of those things, that could help you get outside of your comfort zone and grow as a person, and in essence, just making you more of a better person for others as well as yourself. This is also an important thing, is my faith in God ultimately, which has consistently and every day given me the courage and confidence to pursue any endeavor that I feel like I'm afraid or timid to do. And I would encourage you guys also to find and tap into the source. Find the source that can continue to refuel you, to really uplift you in the midst of, taking those leaps. And there's also a quote where he calls you, then he prepares you. So it's in one of those lines of thought, essentially, of not worrying about, having to have all this background and criteria to get started, but essentially having the trust that God has created you in a unique way to start an endeavor, and recognizing that He's going to prepare you along the way. So it's really this really dynamic thought process, and along the lines of you don't have to have everything in order, and don't worry about all these kind of artificial things, views or how to come across, because those things can continue to be roadblocks. So really tap into, deep inside of you about, am I gonna let this hold me back from living the life or starting the life or the career or endeavor that you've always wanted to do? And that's really important. And for those, I wanted to just break down belief. I've been building, an entire company slash brand around the notion of pure belief, having belief that is not really given to you by anyone outside of God, but it's cultivated through your life experiences, DNA, and etc. That some things can't be explained in words, but something that you're sure about and that stays with you no matter what obstacle or phase of life you're in. It stays with you and it propels you to really go after those challenging things that you want to pursue in life. So for me, I define belief from a kingdom perspective, like how the Bible defines faith: the assurance of things hoped for the evidence of things not seen. Addressing kind of just the notion of you're not going to be able to see everything all in front in regards to things that make sense to give you enough evidence to keep going, but are you going to just take the whisper that God places inside you to start and keep going? Believe a lot of people have this misconception that belief is just hoping. It's truly trusting God's promises even when you can't see the full picture. And it's also not about you having all the answers. Belief is really what activates the first step. Without it, even the best plans stay stuck as dreams. Barriers to belief. These are 3 common barriers that we all, to some way or another, experience. So we have the fear of failure. What is failure? One of the biggest lies the enemy uses to paralyze us. Failure is a teacher, not a verdict. It can really be a lesson that helps, give you a lot of reps to just eventually get to where you want to be. A lot of times society looks at failure, as the end all be all, in the sense of you can't recover or you can't bounce back or you can't leverage it or use it to become better, which that is far from the truth. God, all throughout the Bible, uses men and women in the Bible that had mishaps or things that just made them stronger and better people, but they had to experience the tough things early. And that is a true testament, to what God really wants us to do when we face, trials and tribulations or things that we may look at as setbacks. They're really just setbacks for elevation and promotion, that it will be further down the line. You see these stories with like Moses, David, Peter, and then this notion of also feeling unworthy. I think a lot of us, we deal with shame, we deal with just insecurity, we deal with maybe just a lack of resources, a lack of just positive thinking, and that'll lead us to feeling like we're not qualified enough. And God truly doesn't operate like that. It goes back to what I mentioned earlier, where God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. That is truly, I have found to be a real thing in my life. And then overcoming overthinking and perfectionism. And I alluded to that too earlier, where you want to feel like everything has to be in order, and I'm a very analytical person, so it's kind of just learning about yourself, knowing yourself to a degree, so that you can put things in place or just counter some thought processes that can be good in certain circumstances, but then understanding that in others they can be hurdles. So not thinking too much. And I think anytime, like for example in my life, when I have time to just think too long, it makes me stagnant, or I start thinking about all the things that went wrong, because I think us as humans, we tend to gravitate to all the things that go wrong or that can go wrong, or all the problems associated, instead of all the things that can go right, or how we can continue to just almost just think ourselves into just positive outcomes. So that requires actually doing the work, starting, and believing. And then I would just kind of encourage you all who are watching, which are some of these barriers that you resonate with that are holding you back and stopping you from stepping out and doing that thing, or in essence, or becoming that person you want to be. And here are just a few practical steps that I would extend upon you guys, in the sense of, first, anchor your belief in God's word. This is critical. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing through the word of God. That's in Romans. And one practical tip, and this is a continual thing of just starting your day with God, even if it's for a few minutes. Really take the time to pray, meditate, and hear God's voice of what he wants you to do, and really be in his word, because he's giving us those instructions. He's giving us the guidance that's not only just spiritual, but it's practical. It's the complete package. And oftentimes we're like, maybe we don't see ourselves in the story, but we are in the story, and there's connections that can be made if we continue to just seek those answers, seek those solutions that God has for us. And then second step would be just start small, and with obedience, being faithful in the small things. That's huge. And I love Ray Lewis's quote of, greatness is found in the small things done well. And Ray Lewis was an NFL linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens for many years, Hall of Fame linebacker. But that quote has always stood with me ever since hearing about it sometime in high school. I think a lot of times we're looking at the things that seem so obvious, or are visibly obvious, or clear, but it's a lot of times it's the small things that can be found in the process, or in the preparation that comes along. For example, making your bed every day, like that's a win that you could already have, of just setting your day up for success. And that's something that I do and live out every day. And if there might be a few days if the wife is still asleep, but essentially that holds up true, and it gives me more leverage to then start to conquer other things that could fluctuate as far as challenge or difficulty. That is huge. So for you, it may look like, let's say, preparing your clothes for the next day, the night before, or for instance, looking at your calendar for the week and just seeing what commitments or things that you have forecasting before you, and noticing how can you just plan or prepare. It can range, but really keep in mind, it doesn't have to be a big gesture or a big thing. It can be so small, but that can compound to an habit or a skill that will only do you for the better as you continue to grow as a person. Step 3, I would say, surround yourself with encouragers. This is extremely important, and I would say it's been something rare in my life, that I've been able to find or experience, but God has given me a few people that have helped me along the way, have encouraged me and empowered me in a way to be who I am today. I think a lot of times society, at large, is very cynical or pessimistic, or just Debbie Downers. Yeah, it's just finding positive people who are thinking positive, being positive, and communicating positive. it doesn't get any more critical than the people you surround yourself around, because that's going to continue to give you fuel, and it's going to continue to formulate your perspective and give you some more inspiration to keep pushing already challenging world for various reasons. And then step 4, and this is something that I am working on and constantly thinking about and implementing, is praying for courage and clarity. I think it's so easy to get distracted or just be consumed with either social media, work, relationships, entertainment, so many things. It's so easy to just get consumed and get discouraged because you're maybe seeing like, well, I don't have this like this other person, or I'm not as talented as another person, or I don't have as much money as the other person. But all those things in the grand scheme don't matter, because if this is something you feel called to, God is going to put you in a position, no matter what it is, to make it happen. And that's only going to come if you believe it and you actually seek out his voice, his direction, because he's going to put things in front of you. It might not be the most perfect scenario or have all the right equipment or crowd of people behind you in doing it. But God is saying, be obedient and take this step, because eventually it's going to compound to getting to a point where you're gonna have the things that you may want to put out, maybe better production. Like for me, for instance, I need to have the right equipment, or I need to have the right lighting, or different things like that. But looking back, if I hadn't just thought about those things, I could have started way much sooner. I thought I had to essentially come out of the gate kind of similar to a lot of the bigger channels you see, on the internet or even on YouTube. But it's not playing the comparison game. So just keeping that in mind. There's a picture that also went viral where there's a swimmer. These swimmers are competing. There's one swimmer that is just outright in the lead, and then there's another swimmer that is basically competing with this same swimmer in the midst of other swimmers. But he's looking over to see where that swimmer is so noticeably, but he's behind. And it's so crazy because we see examples like that in different ways in life, where maybe you use a track analogy of you're running your race and you're obviously in the lead, but you're looking to the left or right, and you're like, wait, this person is way in front of me, so therefore I'm not in the lead in my own race. And that throws you off, because you're trying to compete for a medal that is not necessary, that doesn't mean anything, in the grand scheme. I like this way. I researched something, and it was saying like, competition is essentially how authentic you are. And for me, that just translated, and I'm probably butchering the quote, but to me, it just showed that the more true you are to yourself and true to how God created you, essentially you're not competing. You're essentially competing with yourself in the sense of who you were yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So just keep that in mind, because that'll give you more fuel to understand that you're not in a race with others, but you're in a marathon with yourself. And I wholeheartedly believe that God is placing something in you, in your heart, for a reason. That dream, that idea, that calling. It's not random. It's a part of his kingdom purpose for you. So think about what is the one small step, that I can make today. And remember, it's not about doing it perfectly. It's about starting with the belief and taking action, with that. And I want to leave you guys with this verse, Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Your first step activates his promise and leads us, to the point of what is one thing you've been afraid to start. Encourage you guys, share it in the comments, and let's just encourage each other to take that first step. If you guys found this video helpful, please share it with, a friend, family, colleague, or anyone, that you come across in your life that needs just a little nudge to, step out and begin to taking the step towards the life they want to have. Thank you guys, and until next time.